They laughed first, not a loud laugh, not a cruel laugh, just a short one. The kind that slips out when someone thinks they know better. The US military officer leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms, and said the words that would soon circle the world. Filipino training? That's a joke. The room went quiet. No one argued, no one shouted, no one defended themselves. The Filipino soldiers just looked at each other and smiled, because what happened next would shock the world, and it would change how the world sees Filipino soldiers forever. This story begins on a humid morning at a joint military training camp in Southeast Asia. The sun was already high, sweat rolling down faces, boots sinking slightly into red soil. This was not a parade ground. This was real terrain, jungle nearby, mud, heat, bugs, the kind of place where training stopped being theory and became survival. This was a joint exercise between US forces and Filipino soldiers. The Americans arrived confident, clean uniforms, advanced gear, years of global missions behind them. The Filipinos arrived quiet, calm, simple gear, no noise. Among the American group was a senior officer, decorated, respected, known for his sharp tongue and even sharper confidence. He had trained soldiers all over the world, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and now he was here. During the first briefing, he flipped through the schedule and frowned. "Wait," he said, "this is the Filipino training module?" A local commander nodded. "Yes, sir," the officer chuckled. "This?" he said. "No offense, but this looks basic." Someone tried to smooth it over. "Sir, the Filipino forces have a different approach." The officer waved his hand. "I've seen this before. Jungle drills, endurance marches, hand signals. It's outdated. This kind of training won't survive real modern combat." Then he said it. "Honestly, this training is a joke." The words landed heavy. The Filipino commander didn't react. He didn't argue. He simply nodded and said one sentence. "Sir, please observe first." The officer shrugged. "Sure, this should be entertaining." The first exercise began at dawn the next day. It was supposed to be simple, a navigation drill. Both groups were given the same task. Move through unfamiliar jungle terrain, reach 3 hidden checkpoints, and return without GPS. The Americans moved fast, confident, talking, using maps and devices. The Filipinos moved slow, silent, no talking, no rush. Within 30 minutes, something strange happened. The Americans stopped. They were lost. The jungle swallowed sound. Paths disappeared. The heat drained energy faster than expected. Radios crackled. "Command, we may have taken a wrong turn." Minutes turned into an hour. The Filipinos, meanwhile, had already reached the first checkpoint. Devices, no maps. Just memory, instincts, and signs the jungle itself provided. Leaves bent a certain way. Soil patterns upward. Wind direction. The U.S. officer watched from the command tent, arms crossed, smile faded. Lucky start. Then came the second exercise, survival. Each team was dropped in separate jungle zones with minimal supplies. No packaged food, no bottled water, no tents, just knives, clothing. The Americans set up camp quickly. They followed manuals. Procedures, not standard steps. Filipinos disappeared. Hours passed. Then rain came. Heavy rain. The American troops struggled. Water-soaked gear. Fire wouldn't stay lit. Some soldiers fought for strength. Filipinos, they reappeared at dusk. Dry bed they had built raised shelters using vines and bamboo. They had collected water from plants. They had cooked using techniques passed down for generations. One American soldier whispered, "How did they do that?" The U.S. officer said nothing. Still, he wasn't convinced. "Survival skills don't win wars," he said. "Let's see combat drills." That night, the biggest test was announced. A simulated combat exercise. Americans versus Filipinos. Same objective, secure a strategic zone. The Americans were confident. Better weapons, better tech, better numbers. The Filipinos listened quietly. When the exercise began, the jungle went silent. Too silent. The Americans advanced in formation. Then, one by one, their radios stopped working. Sensors failed. Night vision picked up nothing. Suddenly, a tap on a shoulder. A whisper behind someone's ear. "You're out." Soldiers froze. They had been surrounded. The Filipinos had moved without sound. They blended with shadows. They used terrain like a weapon. Within minutes, the Americans were tagged out. No gunfire, no chaos. Just precision. The U.S. officer stood frozen. This wasn't luck. This was mastery. But the real shock came the next day. A surprise scenario was added, an ambush simulation. The Americans were told to defend a base. The Filipinos were given one instruction: infiltrate without being detected. The officer shook his head. Impossible. The base was guarded. Sensors active, patrols moving. At midnight, alarms stayed silent. At 2 a.m., still nothing. At 4 a.m., a Filipino soldier calmly walked into the command tent and placed a small flag on the officer's table. The officer jumped. "How did you get in here?" The soldier smiled politely. "Training, sir." The room exploded with questions. Where were the guards? Why didn't sensors alert? How did they bypass everything? The answer was simple and terrifying. The Filipinos didn't fight the system. They studied human behavior. They timed patrol fatigue. They watched routines. They understood silence. Technology didn't fail. People did. That morning, the U.S. officer requested a private meeting with the Filipino commander. No cameras, no audience. Just two soldiers. The officer stood at attention. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I called your training a joke." The Filipino commander nodded calmly. "Our training comes from our history," he replied. "We fought in jungles, islands, cities, and mountains. With less, so we learned to become more." Word spread fast. Other officers watched footage. Analysts reviewed results. Military experts started asking questions. How could a smaller force outperform a global superpower in multiple simulations? The answer wasn't strength, it was mindset. Filipino training focused on adaptability, awareness, patience, respect for environment. They didn't rush, they observed. They didn't depend fully on tools. They depended on each other. Soon, international media picked up the story. Headlines exploded. U.S. officer underestimates Filipino soldiers, regrets it. Filipino military training stuns global experts. From joke to jaw-dropping reality, the U.S. officer was later interviewed. He didn't hide. He said one sentence that went viral. "I was wrong. And I'm grateful I learned before it was too late." The U.S. military quietly adjusted some training modules. Jungle warfare programs were updated. Survival techniques borrowed ideas. Instructors requested exchange programs. And the Filipino soldiers, they didn't brag. They didn't celebrate online. They went back to training. Because for them, this was never about proving others wrong. It was about being ready. Ready when technology fails. Ready when plans collapse. Ready when silence matters more than noise. The world learned a lesson that day. Never judge strength by volume. Never judge skill by appearance. Never call something a joke until you understand its depth. Because sometimes the quiet ones are the most dangerous of all. And that is what happened next. The moment the laughter stopped and respect began. Before we end this story, take a moment to sit with it. This wasn't just about soldiers or training. It was about humility, discipline, and the power of being underestimated. It was about how quiet preparation can speak louder than pride, and how respect is earned, not demanded. Here on Phillipiness Wealth Chronicles, we share stories like this because they reveal something deeper about culture, strength, legacy, and the hidden forces that shape nations and people. Sometimes it's wealth, sometimes it's history, sometimes it's the mindset that turns limits into power. If this story made you think, if it surprised you, or if it gave you a new way to see the world, then you already know why this channel exists. More stories are waiting. Until the next one, stay curious, stay humble, and remember, never underestimate what you don't fully